Welcome back to another Smackdown review with me, Mr. Parkin, on behalf of the British Fist. If you have any thoughts or comments on Smackdown or WWE's direction in general, please let me know down in the comments section below as per usual. But I will say this, I'm not feeling 100% right now. I'm not ill or anything. I'm just very tired after a long day, but I will still try my best to do this review as good as I, try to do normally. And, if I do miss something or if I miss something here and there, little details, fill me in the comment section below, but forgive me if I'm not at my full best today. So let me get this straight, WWE. After this week's edition of Smackdown, we only have 3 announced matches for Survivor Series. Survivor Series being one of your oldest, most prestigious pay-per-views that you have. And we have 3 matches announced for the show, going into the 2 go-home shows next week. That's pretty fucking ridiculous. You can see why not only the buy rates have kind of lowered for Survivor Series over the years, and why people are now considering more of a filler pay-per-view than a Big 4 pay-per-view. If you're going into the Smackdown, if you're going into the 3rd show before the actual pay-per-view, then with only 3 matches, then you've got a bit of a problem on your hands, WWE. I know you're in the UK and you're trying to entertain the European fans, but could we not have announced a couple more matches for Survivor Series, or maybe at some point set up some kind of Survivor Series match? Because other than the 3 matches we've got now, it doesn't really feel like we've got any other thing like building up that could be any kind of big time match going into a Big 4 pay-per-view, and that is shit. I'll say this about this week's edition of Smackdown, exclusively from the UK. Smackdown got off to a good start. We had the Wyatt family versus the Usos in a match. You're starting off with some strong characters that are involved in a big storyline, and new characters too, i.e. the Wyatt family, which is good. And we're just getting straight into a match. None of this promo segment bullshit, and this 15-minute promo segment bullshit, just straight into the action, which on sometimes is very good. And I was also glad that the commentators reminded me that the Usos actually got a win over the Wyatt family a few weeks back, and I think actually after they gave them their first defeat. So that added a little bit of storyline to this match as well, even though essentially at the end of the day, it was only going to be there really to make the Wyatt family look strong going into their big match at Survivor Series. This is a very solid match. The Wyatt family rightfully win, and to plenty of canned heat, because the fans really love Wyatt family, and WWE don't like that, do they, when the fans react differently to how they want them to react. Speaking of Survivor Series, is anyone else a little bit disappointed after what happened on Raw that it's only going to be a 2-on-2 tag match at Survivor Series, between Daniel, Bryan, CM Punk and the Wyatt family, especially after that great finish to Raw, which kind of teased a really good and awesome Survivor Series match, with the Shield, the Wyatt family versus the Usos, Rose Brothers and CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, that, to me, would be a really good pay-per-view selling 6-on-6 or 5-on-5 if necessary tag team match, in my opinion. And is there even going to be any Survivor Series matches this year? I mean, we're only 2 shows away from the pay-per-view, and no real sign of whether or not we're going to be getting a traditional 5-on-5 or 4-on-4 or 6-on-6 Survivor Series tag match this year, which is very disappointing considering Survivor Series is supposed to be a unique pay-per-view gimmick which entitles that. So we had Natalya versus Tamina, who came out of AJ Lee, of course, and this all stemmed from Tamina causing a DQ and attacking Natalya in the Divas title match on main event on Wednesday. And the thing that really struck me about this Divas match was Natalya just kind of beat Tamina almost like she would beat a jobber. It was almost like Tamina wasn't really putting up that much of a fight against Natalya, and Natalya just beat her in about a minute or two. And I thought the whole point of Tamina was to be a bodyguard and not to be just a designated jobber for AJ Lee. I don't know. I'm guessing this is leading to Natalya versus AJ Lee at the pay-per-view, which quite frankly, I am not interested in. I haven't really been interested in the Divas division for all that long. It's just AJ Lee is okay. Her championship reign has been quite uninteresting because you haven't been able to throw any credible opponents at her, and that sometimes really does, hurt a title reign. So on this week's edition of Smackdown, we had Alberto Del Rio versus Jon Cena in an arm wrestling match. A lot of people may not like the arm wrestling concept, but I can kind of see what they're trying to do here. They're trying to tell the story of Jon Cena's arm being injured, and they're having an arm wrestling competition, and, Del Rio's main finisher being a cross-arm breaker. So I see what they're trying to do here, kind of like when they had Sheamus versus Mark Henry, and then they did all these strong men stuff, which made Mark Henry look like a beast, and made Sheamus look like he was actually overcoming this massive heel beast in I believe it was a bull rope match, wasn't it, or something like that. But what surprised me most about this segment, actually, was, especially after what happened last week, Del Rio actually got one over on Cena this week, despite losing 2 arm wrestling contests, pretty much to Cena, straight away like that. But Dario actually managed to get one over on Cena. WWE actually booked it that way. Maybe it's because the British fans didn't really like Jon Cena all that much. Who really knows? But it's good to see a heel like Dario getting one over on Jon Cena. I still don't think he's going to win the Survivor Series, but at least, you know, getting one over Jon Cena, at least that'll help his cause maybe just a little bit. Hey, if you can get JBL, who knows exactly what's best for business, to believe you can beat Jon Cena, you can make anyone believe that you can beat Jon Cena. Apart from me. And most of the YWC. And anyone with a brain. Yeah. Because it's the European tour, generally SmackDown and Raw has a hell of a lot of filler on there because they don't have the talent to go on one show and be on both shows because they're touring separate places in the UK. So we had a fair amount of filler on this week's SmackDown. Hooray for filler! R-Truth and the Primetime Players versus the Union Jacks, which is basically 3MB. My one question here is not that the Union Jacks lost, so what? My question is, why are the heels wearing the colours of the home country that they're in and not the babyfaces? Generally, that's the kind of thing the babyfaces would do, not the heels. The Bellas versus the Funkadactyls. Is anyone surprised that the Funkadactyls won here, considering that it seems like they're trying to push Brie Bella? Great Khali defeated Hunico and Camacho in the handicap match, who just returned to TV on NXT and now to SmackDown. And then they lose to Great Khali. Please! I know you're trying to push larger-than-life characters, but don't push Great Khali for the love of God. I would have preferred to see Los Matadores in this spot, facing Hunico and Camacho in a match which may have made a little bit of sense and you could have built some kind of short-term feud out of for the Los Matadores gimmick, which really... Is it really going anywhere? I haven't really seen them on SmackDown lately. They were in a feud with the Real Americans, and the Real Americans lost to Jon Cena in a handicap match, and it's like, well, where are they going now? Are they going to be involved in a traditional Survivor Series tag match, maybe involving all them like they did last year? I don't know. But Los Matadores better make it to Survivor Series, that's all I'll say. So after seeing the Raw rebound, which involved Big Show pretty much kicking the shit and chokeslamming Orton through an announcer's table, I'm just wondering what your guys' level of excitement is for Orton versus Big Show going into Survivor Series, which will no doubt be the main event for the WWE Championship. You know, you have two established WWE veterans pretty much here going at it with some kind of story surrounding it for Big Show. And I know WWE are focusing on larger-than-life characters, and they're trying to do this with Big Show being in the main event. But I'm just wondering, do you guys actually care about Big Show going after the WWE Championship? Has he got to the point where Big Show going after a WWE Championship just doesn't do it for you anymore? Because I understand where they're coming from with this storyline with Big Show, you know, having the lawsuit, and that's, you know, it's a semi-interesting way of getting Big Show into the title picture. But when I think of Orton versus Big Show, I mean, they had a match at Extreme Rules which was pretty decent, which I really wasn't all that hyped for. They kind of changed my perception a bit when they had the match. But Orton versus Big Show main eventing a pay-per-view, it wouldn't make me want to buy the pay-per-view, just put it that way. So our main event on SmackDown this week was the Beard and the Best, CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, teaming up for the first time on SmackDown against the Paul Heyman Job Squad, Ryback and Curtis Axel. I've got a lot I want to say about the four characters involved in this match, but first I just want to talk about the match briefly and the angle advancement, which is essentially what these main events on SmackDown are all about. The match itself is pretty solid. I mean, I felt it was a decent main event between these two. The Wyatt family appear out of nowhere about 5 minutes from the end of the show from the darkness, only for Punk and Bryan to not be there, so they kind of outsmarted the Wyatt family in that sense. Instead, the Wyatt family beat down Curtis Axel and Ryback. It kind of shows you how low down the card them two guys have gone now, but I'll get onto that later. And Punk and Bryan get a sneak attack on the Wyatt family to end the show, getting their little bit of vengeance on the Wyatt family after what they've been doing there. So that was fine. So that was all good as a main event. I was pretty happy with that. A solid main event and way to end. Now, I just want to talk quickly about a couple of things to do with CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Ryback, and Curtis Axel. Number one, this is about CM Punk. Does anyone else think that we're going to be getting Punk versus Lesnar 2 at WrestleMania? Especially after what Paul Heyman said on Raw about, I'm going to get my retribution on Punk, you know, and you think to yourself, well, Lesnar's beat Punk already, and generally Paul Heyman calls on Brock Lesnar to sort out his problems, not the jobbers Ryback and Curtis Axel right now. It's going to be Punk versus Lesnar 2 at WrestleMania, in my opinion, which, you know, isn't a bad thing. I know it's another rematch, and they did that last year with Triple H versus Lesnar, but at least it's another big spot for CM Punk at WrestleMania, which is what they needed to do, as he is one of their top stars right now. Secondly, Ryback and Curtis Axel are no longer Paul Heyman guys, apparently, and they're no longer relevant at all because of that. You know, talk about missed opportunities. We'll first talk about Ryback. You know, last year in the UK, around about this time, going into Survivor Series, which drew a low buy rate, by the way, the crowd was chanting, "Feed me more. Feed me more. Feed me more." The crowd loved the Ryback character back when he was a babyface, and now he just sucks. He has a stupid gimmick. He lost to R-Truth. He was a Paul Heyman guy. Ever since he's been a heel, he's done nothing but stink the joint up. I don't know what it is. I don't know whether WWE has just lost their faith in Ryback or whether Ryback just hasn't developed as much as they thought they would, but it's funny as you see this guy get pushed big time, and it's like Vince, you see Vince McMahon saying, "We don't want to make a mistake with this character," and now look where he is. It's just another example of a guy WWE wanted to push, and all of a sudden, they put him up against Jon Cena, they turned him heel in a pointless way, and now he's just another failed experiment. Which kind of reminds me of Curtis Axel. You know, they gave him the IC belt pretty early on, they put him with Paul Heyman, they tried to prop this guy up as if he was going to be the next big thing for WWE, putting him with Paul Heyman and calling him a Paul Heyman guy, and you get rid of Paul Heyman from the equation, and I just don't think Curtis Axel really has enough on his own to really get himself over. I just really don't. I just see another boring mid-carder there. I'm sorry. That's what I see. He's a very good performer in the ring. He's trained The Rock and Brock Lesnar and helped them train up for their matches. But as on his own, he just doesn't seem to have what it takes right now to get himself over. And I'm sorry, that is the truth. As for Daniel Bryan, going into the tag match against the Wyatt family, we'll see what happens with Daniel Bryan going forward. I mean, he's been thrust out of the WWE Championship picture. It seems like WWE want to keep him in the mid-card right now and maybe have some bigger guys go after the WWE Championship. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with the CM Punk and Daniel Bryan tag team. I mean, imagine if they kept them two together and then they ended up having a match at WrestleMania 30. You know, that could be interesting in my opinion. But will WWE do that? We don't know. Anyway, enough about that. Time to go on to my overall thoughts on this week's edition of Smackdown. So really, the only three segments that I really cared all that much about this week were segments involving CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, the Wyatt family, and Jon Cena and Del Rio, which were the opener, the hour main event, and the main event. And I think that says a lot about this week's edition of Smackdown. Like I said, I know they were on the European tour and they didn't have all the talent at their disposal. But where the fuck was Wade Barrett? I mean, you're in Britain. Don't you want to maybe put Wade Barrett out there? You know, even if it's a dark match main event? I don't know, but I didn't hear anything about Wade Barrett. I did, however, hear about William Regal hitting Jon Cena in the dark match main event, and then Jon Cena does a comeback and beat him up instead. But at least William Regal managed to smack Jon Cena, being the special guest referee of the dark match main event. So really, this week's edition of SmackDown was mediocre. The build going into Survivor Series, quite frankly, I'm not excited for it. You know, it's next week, and next week. Now, am I really going to watch Survivor Series when, you know, we got a rematch, Jon Cena Del Rio, which I don't care about all that much. Big Show versus Orton, which I'm not all that interested in. The Wyatt family versus CM Punk and Daniel Bryan, I am interested in, but is one match enough to make me want to watch a whole pay-per-view? Probably not. So this looks like another pay-per-view from WWE, which they haven't really got me interested in so far just yet, unless they announce some more super matches or something. It's another pay-per-view WWE have done that I'm not really quite interested in. And I'm not really getting right now why some people are saying the WWE product is good. Because at the end of the day, the whole point of a WWE product is to draw as high ratings as possible and to try and draw as much money as possible. And right now, the buy rates aren't really that great. The ratings haven't been that great. So if the product is good and the ratings are down and the pay-per-view buys are down, is it really that good? I'm just saying. This is probably why WWE are trying to push guys like Big Show and more established stars like Randy Orton, and why they got Jon Cena as the World Heavyweight Championship, which is a good thing in my opinion. But anyway, that's been it from me, Mr. Parkin. Comment down below if you have any thoughts on this show or WWE or what I've said in this video. Thank you very much for watching. Ciao!